Hello once again. Today is September 21st, 2022. This is recording number 418. 418. It's entitled The Touch That Heals. And I know immediately you think of being in the healing services where the minister comes up and he lays his hands on you, and if you're reading in the Bible, we see where Jesus laid his hand on the leprous man and they were healed. And you immediately come to that understanding, the picture that forms there. Our minds can't help but form an opinion or an image. But I'm going to talk about a touch that heals, and it's the touch that touches your understanding. The touch that lets you know that you know something. And when that touches you, you heard, those of you who have been on the call with my brother, and he talks about feeling. He's talking about having an image or having an idea, and then you feel the rightness of it. And I know for a long time I was confused as how to feel something. But I find myself at times getting an idea of something rushing in as an idea to be contemplated, and I also see or see the answer. And when I see the answer, I feel there's like a moving in me. And for me, I believe that's what that is. I'm not saying it should be that for you, but it's a feeling that comes that lets you know this is something that is allowing you to know something that you can depend on, a feeling. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to go deeper into that because I've already got a couple of things down on paper of what I'm working with, but I don't really want to talk about them right now because I haven't really proven them to be concrete to myself. But we're going to talk today, and I can't help but realize that some of that, what I'm dealing with now, will bleed into today's message because of the feeling that came along. The touch that heals. Background scripture is Isaiah chapter 6, in case you want to just kind of read over some scriptural matter. But what I'm finding is, and I will say this, truth cannot be confined to a book. Truth cannot be confined to a denomination. Truth cannot be confined to a person. Truth is like the wind, and it's just floating around out there, so to speak, for anyone to pick up. And once it touches you, that person can expound on it. That person can write about it, but they should never write down, this is the only place that you can find it. So therefore, you should never say Baptists have the only truth. You should never say Pentecostals, Mormons, Jehovah's Witness, AME Zion, Cool JC. You should never, ever define truth as being confined in a specific denomination or place, and that this is the only way you can come and find it. In fact, yesterday I had a member of the Church of the Latter-day Saints fax me a quote from one of the Book of Mormon. And when I read it, I said, boy, this reads almost exactly like what so-and-so said in the King James Bible. And I just wrote back to him and said, couldn't be better stated. Now, he may think, oh, wow, I can get this guy to believe in the Book of Mormon. No, you can't get me to believe in the Book of Mormon. You can get me to believe in truth if I find it in the Book of Mormon, and vice versa. King James, Aramaic Bible, you name it, in the Koran, you name it. So what I'm talking about is a truth that is impersonal and yet available to every person on the planet. The truth that heals. And by now you should realize that this truth is something that enters your consciousness and it eradicates any negative thing there, and it establishes itself on the throne of your consciousness, and it heals. This is what we should be seeking if we are to seek anything in what we call this earthly realm. And on that note, earthly realm, we tend to think that the earth is something separate from the heavens. But in fact, in the revelation given me, the heavens is the invisible realm, and when the touch heals, it expresses itself in what we call the earthly realm. So heaven and earth are one. It's like me putting an idea on a blackboard. It's in my head, it's in the heavens. And when I begin to write it on the blackboard, it is now being expressed visibly to all those who may want to perceive of it. With the realization that our conscience is an infinite source comes the eye-opening revelation that our good pours forth from within us. Just as I just established or just stated, you get an idea in the invisible, it touches you, and depending on how you feel it, it can be expressed. But it came first from your conscience. That right there should stop us and say, well, wait a minute, it's all good. If all good pours forth from within me, then I need to stop and begin to pay attention to what it is I am allowing to form in my consciousness, because as I feel it, I'm going to express it. If I feel that you really, really like me, then I'm going to express behavior according to that. But if I feel that you don't like me, I'm going to also express behavior that holds me back or holds you back. This is the touch, the infinity of your consciousness, the ability to express. This is the touch that begins the healing of your experience. We now have a truth. That truth we refer to as the Father. Now we can push aside this picture that we have of a gray-bearded, long-haired man sitting on the throne, because now we understand that if everything is pouring forth from within me, that's the Father. Because that's the beginning of let there be. So now we have a truth. And the Father is all truth. So that means that anything that I think that does not come from the Father, it's a lie. Even if I can get it to have a temporary effect on the things that are going on, it's still a lie, because it did not come from the Father of light. We now have the truth, the Father, a recognition in which we abide. We choose. We have to make a decision that I'm not going to do anything except the Father lead me and guide me. By this truth, we now are enabled to bear fruit abundantly. And I'm going a little slow because questions are popping up as I'm speaking, because they're the questions that popped up with me. But what if I'm not expressing these things? Well, you have to be patient. Because the scriptures tell us that patience is a virtue. That means, and if you take this correctly, patience is actually the presence of God. If it's a virtue, it had to come from God, and God has to fulfill himself as patience. So if patience is a virtue, then that means that's the presence of God expressing itself, and therefore we're not waiting. What we're doing is we are resting that the Father, which we are describing as patience. See? We allow the Father to work now. Because patience then would have to have intelligence, wouldn't it? And if it has intelligence, then it knows why it asks you to be still. Where we had previously been led to believe that we seek a touching of sorts by which we may be saved from the negatives of life, we now come face to face with the understanding that we are at one with our good. We are at one, meaning then that every attitude or every characteristic that we describe as being necessary, we're actually describing God. For there to be patience, then God would have to inhabit patience. I hope you see that. For there to be abundance, that word, God would have to inhabit abundance. Supply, God would have to. So when we're talking about these different characteristics, we're actually talking about the presence of God appearing as. See, I've already entered into that thing I wrote for 2 weeks down the road, and it's coming out of me because I realize God is all. And if God is all, if God says be patient, he's saying be me, or let me be me. You stop what you're doing and let me be. I am a virtue. So therefore, I must express where you are because you are doing what? You are obeying what I ask you to do. That which is referred to as the Father is the conscious recognition that we are the eternal source that flows freely through recognition. Now, let's don't get twisted right here. Because right here, now it sounds like somebody handed you the torch. And you're now responsible to bring about your own abundant expression. No. You are to now recognize that your own abundant expression is expressing itself now because you have come to the realization that that which you call the Father is ever evidencing itself in expression out here, and it's asking you to allow it to do the same. We are always established on holy ground, and our good is always with us. Can you see now the touch that heals? What is it touching? It's touching your awareness. Well, now look at the word awareness. What would the word awareness have to be touched to bring a good fulfillment in your life? Wouldn't it have to be God? All roads lead to heaven. All arrows point to heaven. Everywhere I look, what am I looking at? I'm looking at God. I'm using words that I think I need, but I don't need those words, do I? Because every time I look at them, I see an infinite source of intelligence telling me, I am with you. Be still. I and my Father, the source of all good, are one. But the Father is greater than I. So therefore, I submit. I become subservient, and I now listen. Listen. Well, look at the word listen. If I listen, what am I listening for? I'm listening for the one to speak. So the word listen truly is what? God speaking. My whole world is now being tied up. The walls are being pulled up around me that I might be able to recognize God is all. Everywhere I look, that's what I should be seeing. All that the Father has is mine and is ever flowing into expression. As we look out here right today, we're in the month of September, heading into October, and we should be noticing that the grass is slowing in growth, the flowers are slowing, and yet if we were able to look within those things, we would still see life flowing. Because should it cease because of September, October, there would be a cessation of life, and it would be what we call death. So therefore, we can know that even in what we call the dead of winter, bad expression, there can't be any such thing as the dead of winter if God is life. But even in the heart of winter, and the ground is covered with probably a microscope of some sort, we can still penetrate the ground and see what? Life. See it moving. The touch that heals is the elevation of consciousness from that of the earth to that of the heavens. What do I mean? We have been told that the earth is a experimentation, a temporary place, but the earth is actually the blackboard from which we write from the heavens. The heaven is the invisible place that flashes in our imagination, in our mind, and shows us what is. What is. So when I look in my mind, and I see something, I've been told that's something that I might desire, right? But where did I see it? I saw it in my mind, right? And what mind is that? The mind of Christ. So if I saw it in the mind of Christ, what is it telling me? I exist. It exists as the Christ. And my recognition of this gives it now the ability to express out here in what I'm calling the earth. Because whatever is in the mind of Christ, if it is of Christ, then it is real. Because I know now you're going, well, what about these people out here murdering people and robbing? Is that in the mind of Christ? No. So whatever I see that is of God, that is in the mind of Christ, is mine. I don't have to ask for it. I just look up there and see it and go, yeah, okay, yeah, cool, and move on. In this format of belief, we watch diligently over that which we do not want stolen from us. Hello? Yeah, I sure hope don't nobody come over here and try to take. I sure hope you're not watching diligently. That's fear. How do I watch diligently over that which I don't want stolen? I have the mind of Christ, and I thank God that that's a treasure chest. In that treasure chest is everything that belongs to me, everything that belongs to God, and God is watching over his affairs. What are his affairs? I am his affair. See, now I'm constantly walking around, and I am not trying to find problems with anybody. And I am not trying to persuade anybody to believe as I believe. I am now caught up, raptured, and I am going to get out of as many adverse conversations as quickly as I can. And how do I do it? By going within and realizing that I have found him who makes my heart pant. And I am going to watch over that relationship because I don't want that relationship stolen from me. I don't have to protect it per se. I only have to recognize that it is so. And as I recognize that it is so, that which it is expresses all that it is. As the conscience continues to embrace truth, this is true healing. We are lifted to the heights of belief. We, through the mind of Christ, witness all of the amenities of life pouring forth through infinite sources, sometimes even before they are visibly seen. You know what that is. I don't know, man, but I just knew. You said that before. What do you think that is? That's why you're not surprised when you actually meet it in the visible realm. You knew. Sometimes before you actually see it, it pours forth. What? It pours forth in such a reality within your conscience that you just, oh man, yeah, I'm good. We see the Father at work. Look how close that is. It's like I was speaking the other day about Daniel. It said, Daniel, from the day that you prayed, the Lord heard you and dispatched the Archangel Michael, right? And he was beset with war for 21 days. And my question is, who is he fighting with? Who is the angel fighting with if God sent him? Why does he need to fight, first of all? And the other thing is, if he is fighting with satanic forces, they were cast out of heaven and cast where? To the earth. Well, if they're in the earth and Michael is on his way through a spiritual realm, who is he fighting with? See? We have to stop and go, oh, wait a minute. Right, who is he fighting with? Michael, Daniel's fighting with himself. He put a prayer out there, and he's like Jacob, who crossed over the brook. And and along that night, what is he doing? He's wrestling with a man. Now, wait a minute. Let's look at this. Jacob's brother comes. He hears he's coming. So Jacob takes all of his belongings. He takes his sheep. He puts them out front. He takes his goats. He puts them out front. Takes his cows. He puts them out front. He takes his carts. He takes his servants. He takes his servants' families. He takes his concubines. He takes his dirt kids. He takes his wife, and their kids, and he's the last one. How does a man get past all of that to get to Jacob, to wrestle with him? Jacob is wrestling with his fears and with his prayer. And he wrestles until he gets the answers. Glimpses of this are good, but the conscious recognition of source must become our continual activity. Can you see you have slowed down, but your mental abilities have increased because you are constantly thinking on him who feels, F-I-L-L-S, who feels all things. This is the activity whereby we experience our birthright. What is my birthright? Son, get this, you are the firstborn. And immediately, what does the world start saying? There's 7 billion people out here. What do you mean? No. The firstborn is the reality of the Christ living visibly in the earth, listening and looking at only what the Father says and does. That's your birthright. Son, thou art always with me. All that I have is thine, because you are the firstborn. It is said that we have the mind of Christ, that this mind is pure and must be stirred with truth until it is raised in recognition to realize the majesty of God raised high above all authority. Where have we heard that story? Didn't the Christ, wasn't he put in a tomb? Wasn't the natural man as we know him hung on a cross? And he did what? Died. And 3 days later, what was done to that natural man? He was raised to a newness of life. If any man be in Christ, he is a new creation. He no longer lives to be rewarded for things done in the earth. He no longer lives for things to be provided in the earth, because now all heaven and earth, isn't that what Jesus said? All heaven and earth belongs to me, all power. Isn't that what he said? And a following scripture somewhere else says what? We are joint heirs with him. Oh my goodness. So whatsoever he inherits, I go that you might be where I am. And immediately we think of heaven, pearly gates, right? Golden streets. But he's saying, your conscience. I go that you might inherit the consciousness that you know I have. Raised from a dead level. Presenting ourselves as living sacrifice. Living sacrifice. God say it again. Living sacrifice. How to present. Who does the presenting? I do. So when I get up in the morning and I start talking about, oh, Lord, what I got to go through, I'm not presenting myself as a living sacrifice, am I? I'm resisting what I got to go through. Let not this man that is of a double mind, let him know for a guarantee what? He ain't getting nothing from the Lord. So presenting ourselves voluntarily as living sacrifice, all idle beliefs are identified and cast out. The moment that I see something that's negative, I immediately recognize I'm the Christ. I'm the mind of Christ. All things in me are good. The Father is with me. Do you see how I just quickly dismantled those thoughts that came at me? It's only as I pay attention to them that they remain. But if I acknowledge God, they are immediately cast out because I am not giving them attention. This can be compared to the infamous war in the heavens whereby Satan is cast out. There are many people, especially in the church, that do not want to hear that statement. They don't want to hear it. But think about it. What is a negative thought? And that word Satan, back in the day, in the original language, before it was translated into Greek and then in the Old English, it was satana, which simply meant to miss the mark. Had nothing to do with some spiritual being. Now think about it. If God is all spirit, I just keep chasing rabbits, but if God is all spirit and all things come from God and all things come from the Christ, which is perfect, how in the world can a perfect spirit go bad? See, these are the negative thoughts that we throw away to realize our lives are hid in Christ with God. Cast out to the land the negative thoughts called Satan, that they might be properly dealt with. And whatever you do, do not look back over your shoulder to see how God took care of you. You know, that person that just rubbed you raw. You know what I'm talking about. That person that stole from you, that person that lied on you, that person that bore false witness. I got to pray to make sure. See what God did. Don't look back over your shoulder to see what God did to them. Don't do it. What happened to Lot's wife? Don't do it. I'm just telling you, don't do it. We digest the truthfulness of the word that we might be found grateful. Grateful that God is enthroned in heaven, our consciousness, and we can look confidently upon his glory that we might rest in his peace. Grateful, glory, peace. Every one of those are characteristics of God who fills every one of those words. So that means his presence. His presence is there with us. Instead of us looking for a feeling to be grateful, a feeling of peacefulness. And what was the other one I said? Glory. Oh, man, I feel like a child of God. I don't know what that feels like. But I know what feeling feels like. And I know what I feel like when I feel that God has done something. That's it. I'm good. We look to him that keeps us from falling, from his grace, and we walk knowing that all provisions are ever present to declare openly the glory of God. Well, what's opening the door for these provisions to come forth as the glory of God? I am. This, once again, is the touch that heals. If there is an obstacle that we must get over, you know what it is, don't you? That I can actually attain to the height of that conviction. That's it. And no one can keep you from trying to do it. Especially if you don't tell them that's what you're doing. When they say anything to you, they should be recognizing that you have done it. You get that? We begin to dance inwardly at the recognition that this is the truth that sets one free. Through conscious recognition of the presence of God and every characteristic that we believe to be good of God, or descriptive of God, we come now to know that those descriptions are the actual presence of God that we are using to define him. And yet, that presence is what all is. We could get to a place where we don't even need words because we know God is. That which does not belong is eliminated and replaced with that which can bless. What did the Pharisees say to Jesus? Only God can do these things. And that should open up part of your consciousness that if I let me go, I can let God be God. Cease ye from man whose breath is in his nostrils. Who can stand before God except he that has seen him? And if a man see God, what does he do? He dies. He doesn't drop dead as a person. He drops dead in thinking, making sure that he takes care of himself. He drops dead in those things, because flesh and blood shall not enter or inherit the kingdom of heaven. With the realization that our awareness of truth is the activity whereby the promises of God are activated and expressed, comes a newfound freedom that releases us from the fears and doubts of the world. Forevermore are we surrounded by the touch that heals. God bless.